Quarter 4, Module 14, Solving Problems Involving Test of Hypothesis on Population Proportion. So for this module, you are expected to enumerate the steps in solving problems involving test of hypothesis on population proportion and solve problems involving test of hypothesis on the population proportion. So in real life, whenever we are confronted with problems, our decision-making skill is being tested. Before we decide, there are certain considerations and analysis of the given conditions must be made. Someone can be an expert problem solver if she or he is able to apply the learned concepts in a particular situation. Although problem solving has steps, someone may have his or her own way or techniques of solving problems. So just like in puzzles, you need to think of different ways on how you will be able to solve it. Same with solving problems involving tests of hypothesis on population proportions. You need to follow important steps in order to arrive at the correct answer. So here are the 5 steps in solving for a test of hypothesis in the population proportion. So first is to state the null and alternative hypothesis. Again, similar lang ni sa previous na itong hypothesis testing involving population mean. This time is population proportion na ta. So step 1, state the null and alternative hypothesis. So sa null, it can be in sentence or in symbol form. So sa null hypothesis, usually P is equals to P sub O. Ang P diha is the population proportion kaning P sub O pati mong hypothesized proportion. So H sub A, it can be less than, greater than, or not equal. Depende sa situation. So second is determine the level of, choose a level of significance like alpha 0.01, usually 0.01, pwede po 0.05, pwede po 0.1. Next is calculate the appropriate test statistic. So kung given na usually ang population proportion is given. So ang sample proportion, pwede po siya given, pwede po dili. Kung dili man given, isolve nimo using the formula x over n. Then kung nana kay population proportion, nana kay sample proportion, pwede din mo isolve ning kani, using kani na formula. Ang z statistic, which is equivalent to p hat minus p all over square root of p minus p times the quantity of y minus p over n. Kani. Or pwede po ka na isolve mo daan si q. And take note, q is just 1 over p. So kani po nga formula mo gamiton. So after makalculate si appropriate test statistic, you will now determine the critical value. Kung critical value approach imuhang gamiton or not, you will use, kung dili ka mag-critical value approach, p-value approach po. So, in determining critical value, kanipod na table atong basihan. And magdepende na sa imong alpha, magdepende po na sa imong test type, kumbaga, kung left-tailed, right-tailed, or two-tailed. And after is you decide and conclude. In decision, again, decision will be either to reject or fail the null hypothesis. And for the decision, sa conclusion, it's either there is sufficient evidence or there is no sufficient evidence to reject or to support the claim. So based na po sa imuhang test statistic value and rejection region. So again, in deciding, preferably you use this format. Example ta. So I have here a problem. Every year, the assigned teachers determine the body mass index or BMI of students in a certain public junior high school. In a certain public junior high school, a study finds that 10% of the grade 7 students observed are underweight. A sample of 780 grade 7 students were randomly chosen, and it was found out that 125 of them are underweight. Is this claim different from their grade level age? Use 0.05 level of significance. So based sa given, based sa problem, let's try to determine ang mga given data. Kaning 10%, unsa ni siya? This is actually our population proportion because a study finds based ni sa previous nga study. So, P na siya, which is in decimal, that's 0.1. Okay, next. A sample, from the word a sample, of 780. So, therefore, this is N. Are randomly chosen, and it was found out that 125 of them, so, kaning 125, mo na nitong X na to. Out of 780, 125 are underweight man. So, ang question karon, is this claim? So, asa atong claim? So, ang claim niya is katong 10%. Different ba daw sa grade level age? So, ang atong level of significance is 0.405, which is our alpha. So, determined na nato ang mga data. So, we can now state the null hypothesis. For the null hypothesis, P is equals to 0.1 na araman, which is given na siya. Next, ang alternative is P is not equal. Nganong not equal ta? Because of the keyword na different. So, P is not equal to 0.10. So, manata sa step 1. For step 2, choose the level of significance. Given po datong level of significance, which is 0.05. So, we proceed to step 3, which is to compute the test statistic. So, wala pa tayo population proportion, so we need to solve the sample proportion. Natay population proportion, pero wala tayo. Natay population proportion, pero wala tayo sample proportion. So, to solve that one, we use this formula. X divided by N. Ang X natin is 125 out of 780. So, our sample proportion is 0.16. Okay. Next, since nanataan na, we can now solve for the test statistic na Z using this formula. So, P hat na to is 16. 0.16 I mean, ang value sa itong P is 0.1. 0.1 po ni, and 1 minus 0.1. Then, ang sample size na to is 780. Then, after substituting, i-simplify na lang ni sa taas, mga 0.6. Tapos sa baba po, i-solve po ni mo. Pero again, preferably, please present your complete solution. Dili kay mo diretso lang 0.3. So, and then finally, divide na lang na nimo. And again, atong sabot is please round off only sa final answer na. 3 decimal places preferably. So sa kanin, ambot di ko sure kung exact value na ba ni or nag-approximate siya. So ang value niya is C sub C is 5.61. So humana ta sa step 3. We now proceed sa step 4, which is to determine the critical value. So atong gamiton diri is critical value approach. So kailangan nato ang alpha, which is 0.05, and then unsa nga klase nga test. Since ato ang H sub A is P is not equal to 0.1, nagamit man siya not equal, so two-tailed ta. So from that, we will look for two-tailed test and then 0.05. So therefore, ang intersection nila is positive and negative 1.96. And that will be our critical values. So, sketching that one, so naa-dere si negative 1.96, naa-po dere si negative positive 1.96. So these are our rejection region, while sa tunga is our acceptance or non-rejection region. So after na ma-sketch nimo, you now locate asa imuhang computed value. Computed value nimo is 5.61, positive 5.61. Naana diri si positive 1.96 naana diri. Unahan niya. Let's say 5.61, tama ba ko? Yeah, that's 5.61. So naana sa unahan. So you can observe naa siya sa rejection region. So kabalo na ta karon sa decision. Therefore, since the T statistic is greater than or it falls in the rejection region, maski pag magamit ta og katong comparison dili ta magamit atong graph, absolute value ni 5.61 is greater than man kay absolute value of 1.96. Positive, negative 1.96. Since mas greater ni, therefore we reject HO. So reject HO atong decision. And finally, we conclude. Sige daw. Based atong kuan ha, ang decision nato is reject HO. And then our claim, asa gani atong claim, we need to determine asa atong claim. Tama, by the way, nalimta nato. In stating the null and alternative hypothesis, you determine asa diha ang claim. Ang null or ang alternative. So, is this claim? So, ang ginapasabot niya, ang claim niya is kaning point 10. So, ang pasabot niya nga claim actually is katong alternative, null hypothesis. Mao ni atong claim. So, dapat i-label na nimo diha. Si null hypothesis nimo ang claim niya. So, balik ta dito sa ato ang kuan. So, therefore, ang decision nato is nag-reject HO and then ang claim nato is HO. So, using this one, di ba, pag reject HO, sufficient evidence man siya. Pag reject ang HO, sufficient. Tapos kung claim sa HO, reject. So, mo nang mga keyword ni mo karon. So, therefore, we conclude that dapat isulat yun nimo ang level of significance, 0.05. There is enough. Pwede ka sufficient or enough. Mo to nagamit siya, there is enough evidence. And ang kulang lang niya ni diri, dapat nagsulat pa siya diri og after anang evidence, there is enough evidence to reject the claim. Okay, murag mali yung pagka-cluster o isa ha. There is enough evidence, nag-reject man ta. O, tama. To reject the claim, dapat dili ni different diri. Katong claim na to reject the claim that blah 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 is 10%. Ang yang gibuhat manggod is nagamit siya different dayon. Wala siya nagamit ng reject nga word. So mo to gidiretso na niya different. So ato ang atong format is magamit man tag reject or support. So reject the claim. So kung sa tong claim na 10% ang underweight. So ato dapat present sa conclusion, kompleto nga presentation sa conclusion. Mag-base ka again sa imong decision ug sa conclusion. So, dapat ang pagkasulat ani, therefore, dapat pagka-state aning conclusion, therefore, we conclude that at 0.05% level of significance, there is enough evidence to reject the claim that the percentage of grade 7 students who are underweight is 10%. Inana dapat ang pagka-percent. So that's how to solve problems. Then gamito nato ni nga format. Nga pag-conclude. So actually that's all. Kay katong previous lesson nato, naman tayo practice tanan is kani is mura siya og one lang man, mura siya og kanang summary lang. So that's all for quarter 4, module 14, solving problems involving test of hypothesis on population proportion.